All righty, friends. Happy Tuesday. So good to see you all here. Welcome to Tidy Up Tuesday. Okay, so this is kind of a new thing I decided to work on, and I'll tell you a little bit of the backstory. But thank you all for saying hello. Laura's here, Debbie's here. Debbie, you already know what I'm talking about, huh? Because you had a little sneak peek earlier. And Mary's here, Linda, Victoria, Judy. Welcome from Kansas. I always love your sunflowers, Judy. That's so cute. And so here we are. And Laura says she's only scrapbooked chronologically. Never dawned on me to make books for each of the kids. So we're going to talk about that and kind of how do we organize our kids? This is a big one for me personally. And so welcome everyone. Thank you for saying hello. Gina, Laura, everyone from hopping on. Shannon's here, Jane, Bobby Ann. So good to see you guys. Okay, so today I want to tell you, so I was looking at my Calyx unit, which has a lot of my in-process scrapbooks on it. And I've talked different times about memorabilia. How do we organize our memorabilia? How do I have things set aside for my kids? You guys have heard of my tragedy with the water and a lot of my memorabilia for kids. Some of it, well, a lot got ruined, paper, everything. And so that kind of propelled me forward to think a little bit more about how to organize my kids. But just recently, I was looking at my Calyx unit and I'm like, oh my goodness, there are 8 cubes devoted to my kids because I just haven't taken the time to think through the entire process. And what do I want? What do I want to hand over? What do I want to give them as their legacy of kind of this growing up process? And I have to admit, my youngest is 20. My oldest is, already moved out of the house on her own. So it's after the fact. And, I've mentioned this a lot of times. We give ourselves grace for doing what we can when we can. And that's the main thing I want you to say. Wherever you are, I want to say, wherever you are in your process, give yourself the chance to breathe and grow and deal with where you are in this process. So I thought that moved, I don't know, for some reason, that just popped up my list of what I want to get accomplished. And I thought, well, I'll just take you through my journey and you can see how I'm thinking through all of this part of the process. And then you can decide if there's something in there that you think might help you, then grab onto it and go for it. And if there's not, try something new. But maybe in these next, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a 5-week series. In these next 5 weeks, we're going to talk about each little chunk in the process. And today we're going to talk about gathering right here. So that's step 1. And I always start here. Whenever we're working on a project, you have to get everything together. So I'm going to share a little bit about that today. Some different techniques, some different thoughts, and then kind of this new thing I'm trying. And then each week we're going to go through a different step. So we're going to go through gathering, we're going to go through assessing, selecting, planning, and then scrapping is our 5th step. So those are the steps that I've kind of thought out in my head of how I want to break down this process. So today we are going to start with gathering. But if you have not been here on Tidy Up Tuesday, I just want to say a great big welcome. I love seeing if there's anyone new. Hi, Mary. She's got to run. Okay, Nancy's here. Vicky, I just loved your post in the virtual crop group. So that just warmed my heart, seeing your amazing transformation. So my hat's off to you. That was a labor of love, but look at your room now. I bet that's just going to be so fun to create in. So that was so fun to read your post. All right, Cinda's here, Shirley, Sarah, Sandy, Becca, Lisa. Oh, so good to see you guys. Okay, so if you haven't heard of me, if you just happen to see this is a new post, then these are all the places you can find me. And I also just want to make sure that I again mention, if you want to get notified of things that are happening, such as I'm almost done with Croptoberfest, and I'm so excited to share that. And that's going to be a new class that I offer, and I'm hoping to have it new and be able to be launched by Friday. So if you're like, well, how do I find out about all this? The best place is to follow me on Facebook, because that's where I do all of my event posting. And it's the easiest for me to say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what's new. Like the card summit for all my card makers. You guys have seen the cards. You just go to my events and you can see that on my page. It's a free summit. So if you haven't clicked on that, you need to click on that on my Facebook page and check out all the ways you can do stress-free card making this summer. So, or this Christmas. Summer's over, right? Okay, so follow those if you hit the like and follow button on my Facebook page. Just saying. That's the way you can keep in touch with me and see what's happening. All right, so let's just talk a little bit about organizing. And let me just switch my camera over to the overhead. And I'm going to kind of take you a little bit through my process. I'm going to get my notes out of the way, but I will take a look at that and kind of just share what I have up here in front of you. So right now I have a pod. I have some memorabilia that was damaged in the water. So this is what I had to kind of just pull out, dry off, and then everything's completely mixed up. So I have no idea about that. But then I also have my pop planner. I'm going to talk about that too. So yeah, okay, let me check in on the chat too. And let's see. Michelle says she scrapbooks each of her kids in chronological order. Her daughter's books are all the old Pink albums. My sons are all the, oh yeah, I know. I fit 2 years, birthday to birthday, in each book. And Michelle, that was really kind of how I started as well. And then and you can see, I have kind of my chronological, I've talked about this. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. This is called the Keeping Track of form. And this is one of those forms that once you have it down on paper, you probably come back and look at over and over again if you are familiar with my pop handouts. And if you'd like to get them, I left a link in the description so you can get that. Just click the little more button. And the keeping track of is really, really helpful because especially if you have multiple kids, even if you just have one kid, it gives you an idea of, the album, like what types of albums you might want to have for them. I'm going to come up here a little closer. And the dates, their birthdays, any notes you might have, if you've started an album, kind of where are you in the process if you want to keep track of that. So it gives you an idea. These dates are, which school, middle school, the elementary school, wherever you are. So however you want to organize that, that's just really good. But how this helps is, say I have a piece of paper like this and I'm like, oh my goodness, where did this come from? This is Adams, and this is one that I saved from water. You can see it's still a little water damage, but the date is on here. So usually there's some kind of clue on these handouts, right? So this has a date. Thank goodness our teachers made them do dates, right? And so this is November of 2012. So I can look on here and go, okay, this is June of 2012. So November of 2012 would be actually 8th grade. So I can easily then, because I have my little cheater sheet, I can go, okay, this was 8th grade. Now that I've already done that with you guys, I'm going to make a note. You can use pencil or Post-it or whatever, and I can put this as 8th grade. And now I have this. I know that I can organize this and put this somewhere. Now, where do I put it? So let me back up for a second, but I just kind of wanted to share that's one of my key features why I love having the dates written down with corresponding birthdays and school years. Okay, and you can always just do this in a grid yourself too. All right, so that is memorabilia. So I let me back up for a second, actually. So one of the things I first want to say is, you know, kids are different. Kids are different in the respect that we have a lot of this, right? We have piles. I mean, if you're like me, you save stuff. I mean, I saved stuff. I have 4 kids. I saved a lot of stuff from all those kids all throughout the years. So let me kind of just go backwards and say, okay, first step then, if you collect things like this, and I understand some people may not, they may only have 1 or 2 little things from each grade and all that. And that's fine because we're all different and that's how it works, right? But you can see I have a lot of stuff. I have a lot of memorabilia. So this really is a different process for me than just having my Power Sort box filled with my photos that are printed that I just then go directly into an album with very minimal memorabilia as far as family albums or travel albums, right? I don't have stacks and stacks. Well, maybe some travel albums I do, but those are also projects with a beginning and an end, kind of shortened projects. And so this is years and years of memorabilia keeping, right? And so when I first talked about memorabilia, I also want to give you permission to really only keep the things that zing for you, bring a little Marie Kondo in here, that bring you joy or that are truly meaningful and, you know, kind of make the difference for you. So all of that said, that's why the kid process to me is a little more cumbersome, and I've really tried to tackle this a lot. So my first goal was to get all of the memorabilia into one place. So my first pass, and I posted this quite a while ago, was actually to have these storage. These are called the display and storage totes. And I had one for each child. So I stuck their name in the front pocket, and there was Ellen, Adam, Audrey, Eric, each one. And I just went through all my stuff and I dumped their memorabilia in. And you could see it was, if I had some kind of an organization, I kept it in that order. But if not, it all just went in here. And you can see this, you know, some of the kids' work is large. So I just left the lid open and made this so that I could kind of at least gather every child into one place. And then I thought, okay, I need to get in a little better format from that. And so I know I also shared another time. So that was kind of my first pass, getting things in those big pods. And then my second pass was getting, I shared this too when we first got these little, the smaller pods, that I was starting to then really look at how to take each child's memorabilia. This is, again, mostly memorabilia, and give it another pass. So from that big bucket, start going through it and tossing the things that I don't want to keep, but then keeping other things. And then I think on one of my tidy ups, I shared how I took the power layout guides, and then I added the little tags, for all the different grades. Do you remember we did that? I think a while back. And that worked really great because I had that visual of like, okay, so now I need to do another pass and really organize my piles of stuff into these different categories, right? And then I also talked about taking the 12 by 12 scrapbook pages and the power layout guides and kind of a new spin on how to do a power layout. And I'm going to come back to this, but these also got tucked into kind of a better organization for this. So this is again kind of those early years. And then there was another pod that I had for middle school and high school. And I thought, okay, this is really helping me, and I'm getting through some of this organization for my kids, and I'm making decisions and all of this sort of thing. And then I still wasn't feeling that I had a good visual. I had a good feel for how I wanted to proceed with my kids' albums. So I went from, as I was mentioning, I went from kind of the large storage pod to organizing in the mini pods. And then I decided to try something completely new. And I've talked about this, and I've toyed with this idea, and I thought I'm just going to jump in and try it. And so I'm going to be the guinea pig. You can see if this works, or if you like the idea, then you can try it along with me. But what I then decided to do, and so you saw that Adam's grades, oh my gosh, and this is so big. Adam's grades are so empty. But then I thought, what I need, being the visual person, is I need a way of kind of getting a handle on what his albums are going to look like. And in that process, and that's what we're going to talk about next week, I'm also going to assess what is the end I want to give him. So do I want to give him a book for each 2 years of his life? Do I want to give him albums, 25 albums when he leaves the house? What does he want? We've talked a lot about that too. What does he want as an adult? And that's actually kind of nice now that they are old, and I kind of started the process, but I never finished, and so on. So this visual of having this book really put things into perspective for me personally. So what I ended up doing is I took the 12 by 12 scrapbook pages, and I've talked about, different ways we can use these. This is what I was pulling out when I was showing how we can use them for power layouts as well. Let me grab one of those. So I talked about how you can do a power layout with these, put the guide in, and you can actually have a visual of the front and the back of the other page, right? So you can lay this out in a book format and actually flip it. And then I thought, okay, now let me put it, completely unorganized, a little bit organized, but let's put it into a notebook format. So I went on Amazon and got the least expensive, biggest 3-ring binder I could find. This was about $17. And I have the link from Amazon. You can pay more, but I wanted the cheap one. And luckily it actually came in red, was the cheapest color. So I ended up getting 4 of these, one for each of my kids, because I've kind of decided I really like seeing this visual. So, and I have to say, I've started books for each of them. I've started school books for each of them. And so, some of these grades, like kinder and first, I've actually started that in Adam's book, but I never finished. And so I think I was in the middle of first grade, or to the end of first grade, or maybe starting second grade. And I had some of these organized in more detail, which is kind of that power layout, which these front pages show. But then once I get kind of past there, my initial organization, you can see then we get into just piles of work into a pocket. So eventually I'm going to go back and take a look at this pocket. You know, this is in the select process, week 3. I'm going to go back in and say, yep, I want to keep this. No, this is going to go into an album. This is not. But it's all organized in a pocket, and I can kind of visually see this is what, you know, I want to move forward with. And then this is something I don't need. So, you know, my other thought about this notebook, so these are 12 by 12, 3-ring pages. They're very inexpensive. You can get a pack of 100 of these for $25. So they're like a quarter a piece. They're pretty inexpensive. And once I have purged this book, I'm going to show you just how big this is. I'm going to stand it up. It's ridiculous how fat this book is. Okay, it's pretty large. And yeah, I've got pictures that are just kind of hanging out from it. But I'm also considering that this may be long-term storage, a solution for me for long-term storage of things that don't make it into an album. So maybe it's not something that I think Adam wants, but maybe it's something that I want to keep. You know, maybe I want to keep a couple extra of his school pictures. This is going to be a great, easy place to keep all of that after I've pulled out what is actually going to go in his scrapbook. So I hope that kind of makes sense. And in this process, if I had, I can see that was opening right there. There we go. In the process, like if I had larger things or artwork, I just tucked it loosely inside the, you know, so I have some of things floating around that need to go in these books. Now, the interesting thing I also found as I was going through is, oh my gosh, yeah, look at, this is 4th grade. That's a lot of stuff to go through. And this is 5th grade. And then it goes into 6th grade. And I have kind of a good amount for 6th grade. And then 7th grade. But each grade now is getting smaller and smaller. Just because, you know, I felt like as he got older, I was getting, you know, he would kind of just write essays and do computer and stuff. And there wasn't a whole lot that of that memorabilia type stuff that I ended up with that came home. So from middle school to high school takes up, you know, a very small amount of my album compared to elementary school. So that's this right here, 5th grade, all the way through kindergarten. And I think we probably all experience that, right? As they get older, we just have less stuff. Now, I also too want to address, there's also theme albums, sports, scouts, dance, cheer, you know, all those type of albums. And that's going to be part of your assessment, is to say, am I going to have that integrated in a school book or some kind of an album format, or is that going to be a separate album and a separate theme album? And you're going to have to take a look at your own memorabilia and pictures and kind of make that assessment. So, yeah, okay, let me check in. It looks like there's a lot of you chatting over here. Let me see. What are we chatting about? And Karen says, oh, that's so sweet. Her kids want her to video their albums and upload them to the cloud. That is so, so fun. I love that. Okay. Yeah. So let's see what else. Laura says, when our kids come home, their first question is, you scrapped lately? Oh, I can only dream that would be. Second question is about ordering out pizza and from where. I love it. Yeah, that's usually the first question for me. And so, yeah. And Sherry says she photographs some of the larger items or papers that are yellowing and falling apart. And if she wants to keep them, and put those in her album. And that absolutely, I'm going to talk about that. And how do we get these larger format things to fit into a scrapbook format, right? And I know I had all the good intentions. Like I have a picture of Adam actually holding this really big, cute snowman that he made. And, I'm like, oh, guy, why didn't I finish? Why didn't I do that? But life happens, right? So I don't have a picture of him holding this one, but there are definitely ways you can take a picture or you can scan some items and shrink them just so that everything, kind of fits in the format. So that's in the process as well. So I love it. Those are great tips. Joni says, are the clear pages you using from CM? So no, these are not. These are from Samsil. And they do say that they are PVC free. That's the main thing you want to look for in plastic, is that they are polypropylene and not PVC, which is what will damage your photos over time. But CM does not have this 3-ring option. And I will never scrap in a 3-ring. That just doesn't appeal to me. I love the Creative Memories albums, but this really was a way for me to visually organize how much I have to scrap. Now, I want to say a couple other things that I like about this album, and kind of looking through some of this as well, is one, I can take these out, right? So if I wanted to do a power layout or to kind of get an idea, and I'm going to talk more about this later as well, of how this first part of his album. So say I want to take a look at these pages, and I've taken a little time to maybe make some decisions about photos that will go together. I can then lay this out on a table or on a bed or on the floor, and just kind of get a visual perspective of how many pages this is going to take in his album. So I like the fact that I can actually take these out and then, work with this section, and everything else kind of stays intact. It also, this album, for those of you Kallax users, the IKEA Kallax cubes, this will fit in a cube. Okay, this album will fit. So I can keep this upright and in my Kallax cube, basically like that, right? It barely fits on the top. And yeah, it doesn't work too well with all this stuff sticking out. So you have to kind of deal with that a little bit. But this will fit in a cube, and you can fit this album and either a power sort box next to it in one Kallax cube, or you can fit this album and the Flex Pod in here like that. That'll fit in one cube together. So you've got flexibility that way. But I really kind of like the idea of being able to grab this. And once we get through week 3, you're going to see this is going to look a lot different, because a lot of this I'm going to have gone through and purge. And and so this will hopefully be much skinnier. We're going to tame that bulge, because this is bulging a little too much for me right now. So again, and then it is pretty flexible on filing, right? So I just shared with you how I looked this up in 8th grade. So now I can just go and I, so if you find new things, so here's 8th grade. So this is just going to slip in this pocket. And then when I get to 8th grade, I can decide, okay, is that something, that is actually album worthy, or is it going to just kind of stay in here? Or do I take a picture of it, shrink it down? Do I scan it, shrink it down? So all those decisions get to be made later, but this is just that rough pass of gathering everything into one place. That's really, really my first pass at getting my kids organized. So some of you also may be asking, what about, baby and those younger pictures? So I do have those also accounted for. They are right now, they're in this pod And I've got most of those kind of started in scrapbooks, but this is kind of, I had these old folders from Old CM, if you guys remember those. And so I just put those in the pod for now. And there's still a section in here that's like birth to pre-K that I need to handle. So, to me, that's like one chunk. Then all of the school stuff is another chunk. But, definitely there was a lot of memorabilia when he started doing things in pre-K also. So, those are all things that need to be handled as well. So, yeah. Okay. And I have kind of bits and pieces of different albums started, but I really like it's bugging me to the point if I need to get a handle on all of this. Okay. Let's see. So, other questions. Sherry said, my son and youngest daughter were in JROTC in high school. So have a lot of things in their high school years. Yeah. And if you had those kind of extracurricular activities, I think that really gives you a different perspective on what that's going to look like, right? Like your high school section, what is that going to look like for you? And, each of my kids were kind of different. My girls were the ones that did everything, and my boys were just kind of, they didn't really want to do sports, and they did scouts for a while, but, they kind of had their own thing that they wanted to do. So, kind of go with what works for you and your family, right? Let's see. Oh, Beatrice, can we all be there in Hawaii with you? From Waikiki. I love it. Okay. Yeah, they had the large albums, the 15 by 13. I know. Yeah. And how great that those are all done. And for me, I'm just so behind. I'm ready to really tackle this. And Becca says use the CM accordion files. Yeah, remember those old ones too? That's what those folders were from. And yeah, we had those for a while. Cinda says she saved a few very important papers from her late 23-year-old grandson. One was his printed note to her when he was living with us, telling how much he loved me. I love that. Isn't that? And those are the things, absolutely, right, that we have to hold on to and have somewhere important, that we can look back on. So I love that. In fourth grade, I love it. Okay. So, and Bobby says, now she knows why she bought 100 of the scrap pages. Yes. And actually, Mary Smith was saying, oh yeah, I was trying to figure out what to do with those. And I go, well, Mary, I've actually been thinking about that too. What do I do with all those 12 by 12 scrapbook pages? So we're going to get into that. I think that they are a really great organizational tool. So, yeah, okay. Let's see. Sherry says, are you changing your kids' baby albums to true 12 by 12? No, I actually have all my kids' baby albums in the original white booty albums. Remember those? And those are pretty much done. And so I'm not going to change them. And, it's one of those where it's like, they are what they are, and they're scrapped the way I used to scrap, and kind of, they're just going to stay. But for school on, now I can kind of really think about what do I want to have as a finished gift to give my son? And then what am I going to just keep and, just have as an archive for myself if I ever wanted to pull it out? This is really just an archive for me. Okay, so Victoria's saying, how do you deal with lack of copy of photo as you add another kid to the family? Lack of copy. So I'm thinking you don't have a photo if you've added another kid to your family. Well, if there's any way that you could find that, I would look into that. And, their friends might have pictures. And if they don't, if you don't have, like, I was kind of panicking a little bit that I think one of these years, was it 10th grade? I was like, where's all my stuff? Like, did it get damaged? And do I not have it? And, if I don't have it, I'm just going to have to make up what I can find. So if there's a great photo of him that I do have, and I don't have his school photo, I'm just going to use that. So I would just say improvise and find something that would represent them, some kind of photo. I'm sure someone has a photo. Check out their social account. It might go back that far. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Michelle was saying snoop their Facebook. Exactly. Yep. Go through their social. Okay. Beatrice says adding a 12 by 12 pocket to the back cover of the album with strong adhesive helps have a good memorabilia pocket. Some albums, I have one on the front and one on the back, and you can use these kind of pages. Yep. And pick a strong one. CM photo tape. I don't have a picture to share, but I can add. Yeah. And I think that's an awesome idea. You can just take one of these thick pockets, I would say probably cutting off the 3-ring part. I've done that a lot for different things. And then just taping that inside your album so you can tuck memorabilia into it. I love that. So one thing I just also want to share, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. Let me see if I can go grab it. I've got myself barricaded in here. I forgot to bring this over. Be right there. Okay. So let's see. So if you want to kind of see how, the supplies, what do you need as supplies if you want to try this out? So like I said, these are the Sam Sill 12 by 12 scrapbook pages. And like I said, you get a pack of 100 of these and it's going to go a long way. And like I said, they're pretty inexpensive as well. So you're going to need, if you want to try this, the 12 by 12 pockets with the 3-ring hole punches, a notebook if you like that idea. Now, if you don't want to invest in a notebook, I also wanted to mention you could just get the ring binders. You guys know what I'm talking about. These guys, right, that we use for all our paper and good things. You could get some of 3 of these and just hook your pages together with these. And that would be a less expensive option if you didn't want to invest in a notebook. Okay. But it would keep everything in a flippable format because you could just put 3 of these rings in here and then have all your goodies inside. The other thing I would definitely recommend, and I am so sad the special that CM just put up yesterday is sold out. I wanted to talk more about that, but they are gone. I don't know if they're going to bring them back, but they do still have the power layout guides. I have always bought extras and extras of these things. I use them for everything, including, as I've shown, the power layouts, how to divide your pods. You can write on here with pencil. You can put, hold on, let me see, where is it? You can also put, I'm missing it. The label, where's that one sample I had? The label, you can put the label on the little tab so you can see, at a glance what's behind this tab. And like I did one with the kids' names. I don't know where I put it. Audrey, Adam, and they are 3 tab cut. So you have you know, one side, middle, and far side, which I do like having the 3 different tabs to look at. So you can put grades up here. I like using the tape so that it is pretty easy to just peel that off. And I wish I had one that I can show you, but okay. Okay, so the power layout guides, love these things. I buy these, you know, extras just to do all sorts of organizing with because they're a nice 12 by 12. And then if you did happen to get the rainbow special that Creative Memories just did, I'm also thinking those rainbow, they had it where they had a rainbow set of these power layout guides. I'm thinking that might be really fun to categorize my different grades in. So use those rainbow colors, one color for each grade. So I could easily go, oh, this is first, this is second, third, fourth, fifth, you know, whatever. I think there's enough colors I can do that. And so I was thinking, then I can just slip these into, you know, say this was yellow, I could slip it in here, and then that's one grade and so on. So, and you could even put up here the grade title. Okay, so a few things on organization. And then I also want to mention another gather part. So this is what I'm trying. I'm actually really excited about this. And you can see I still have a few more things to go through to sort and add in there. But I also, before I jump in here, I want to share the other gather. So the first gather is memorabilia, but then of course the second gather, for me at least, is printed photos. And this is going to be different. Let me just move this so we can have a little more room. This is going to be different depending on when your kids were born and where they are in this whole process, right? Because we went from film revolution to digital revolution, right? So for Adam, if you notice, it's kind of funny. I started working and I pulled all these photos from my my big power sort box of family photos. This was when we did, you know, double and triple printing. And so then I was like, okay, these are all pictures of Adam. They all go in here. And I want to say, yeah, these are 2004. So these are ones I haven't even touched yet. 2004, 2005. And then you'll notice I have a big blank section, and 2006 and 2007 hardly have anything, maybe a few from 2007. But that's because the digital revolution happened. And so I went from having all of these extra printed photos to now all of these photos are in the cloud or on my phone or, you know, somewhere like that. So I have this whole thing to also manage, which is printed photos, wherever that ended up for you. You might have a child where you have only printed photos, or you might have a child that you have only digital photos, right? But that has to be managed also. So the best way I can do that for me, for the printed photos, is of course with photo folders for myself. This is just the easiest way for me to go through and sort. And so I can take this stack of photos and then label my folders and then have all of these organized, and I can kind of see and then make decisions. Are these going to go into his album, right? And again, some of these I have way too many pictures. I'm not going to scrapbook the way I started scrapbooking. I have that perspective now that I don't need to do that. So it's giving me a perspective when I do go through these. I'm going to be selective of what I actually pull out to put in his school books or his growing up books. Okay, so definitely this is another gather. If you have printed photos, you want to gather that child's printed photos into one place. I still have a special that I'm running, and I've got more of the Power Sorts box on order, where you can get a Power Sort box and the photo folders in my shop and save the $5 on that. And I hope maybe some of you got these when they were on special, but they really went fast, unfortunately. But they are, these are also in stock on the CM website. Okay, if you want just to get some boxes, but I have one of these, as you can see, for each of my children with their names in the front. And then, like I said, this I have a lot of work to do with my my photo folders to get all of these pictures organized. But you're going to see me doing this. We're tackling it. Okay, and then there's something else I wanted to say. If you are digital, this is also going to be in the process, so I can see, all right, after 2005, photos dropped off. Hopefully you have a way of getting, like, for me, my phone has the face recognition, and so I can easily sort Adam into the Adam folder and then just look by date and see what pictures I want to print. So all of, post film, those are all going to have to get printed. And again, I'll probably end up just putting them in the photo folders and having those ready to go. So I do kind of like the idea of when I'm ready to work on his book, I just grab this and grab, if I have a folder of that grade, I can either take this and put it into a power layout and add it in here, or just keep it in the photo folder. But, kind of grabbing these two things, and then I can sit down and scrapbook. So what did I mean? I'm going to kind of wrap up with this. What did I mean when I said I'm not going to continue scrapping the way I had been? And that was a big decision for me personally to make, but I had to kind of assess what my family needs were my time, what kind of time I had. But this is also going to be in next week. We're really going to dig into what do we want the end result to be, and in the assessing process. But I'm just going to say here to give you a little heads up about that. So this is what how I started. Let me move this one over here. How I started my scrapping journey with each of the kids. And this was in the day where, I was of the opinion that I had to scrap everything. I was going to scrap everything, and I was going to have each child have all their stuff and all their books. And then, that was when I had one child, and then two children, and then the third came along, and then the fourth came along. And then, time happened, and all of a sudden, here I am looking back on 20-year-olds going, how do I want to finish their books, right? And Mary's like, do these look familiar? This is it, right? This is how I started Adam's book. And some of you may have already finished it, and I'm just going to give you a huge congrats for doing it. But you can see this was supposed to go to 2007, and it only got, I think, through from kindergarten and then partially into first grade. So what I noticed, though, and here's another perspective piece. Yes, kindergarten, each of my kids have kindergarten finished in their school books. I am not going to go back and redo them. Okay, I'm not. It's the way I was scrapping at the time, but I'm giving myself the freedom just to leave those and then making decisions from wherever I am going forward. And sometimes we think we have to be perfect, like it all has to match. And I'm giving myself the opportunity to say, it doesn't. If I've started this and I'm not going to continue, that's fine. It doesn't. And if I did one, like my oldest, actually, I think I was up to maybe third grade in hers. And my youngest, I only finished kindergarten. And if I start whatever place that I stopped, I'm going to continue for there. But to me, what's really important is that I have a plan so that I can actually finish these projects for them. Right? So that's just my 2 cents. So how did I used to scrapbook? Oh, we've got the school picture and the class picture. There's a whole 2-page spread. And then I was very involved in my kids' school. So I went to all the field trips, helped with art class, taught art classes. I mean, the whole thing. I was there a lot. I volunteered. I helped with the art program. I was at the school a lot. And so I had a lot of opportunities to take pictures and kind of be part of that process. So again, here's the first day of school, another 2-page spread. Could I have done perspective? This is how I want to show perspective. Could I have done all of these together? Could I have taken this and put it in a smaller sleeve and put it in here? Yes. So, but what happens is each page I do now takes up volume in his scrapbook. And I love this. And actually, I have to say, I do love that the kindergarten pieces are done for all of them because they did some pretty cute things. Like he wrote down that he is dressed as a caterpillar and drew himself. And there I have his caterpillar costume, one of the costumes he wore that year. So this has a lot of those really early memories. And like I said, I'm not going to redo it, but this does take up, you can see I'm only up to November in the school year. And I'm already, I don't know, 4-5 pages into his book. And so I just ended up documenting everything, this Christmas play. Okay, so then I'm going to put his Christmas artwork, and maybe that needs a whole page, but maybe it doesn't. Winter break, what did we do? Okay, now Valentine's Day. All right, this is a lot. Now his birthday and more birthday, and then just kind of a miscellaneous picture that I had of him. Took a whole page. So, but again, at the time, I thought this is how I scrapbook. I put everything in the albums. And yeah, it makes a great album, but is it what Adam wants? I'm not sure. Was it what I wanted at the time? Absolutely. Right. Yeah, the vintage papers and stickers. How about that for vintage, right? So yeah, I know. And like I said, I'm not redoing it. I love it. I still love seeing all of this. But moving forward, what is the best way to do that? And would I make the same decisions moving forward? Because I am still not done with kindergarten. Do you see? Still, now finally. So this was the last day of school. Yeah, here's some more vintage. You guys, vintage. Creative memories. This was the last day of school. You can see I still had a little bit more to do here. And then 2nd grade. And it does go with the times. And I was thinking about that too, Patty, like especially on the title page. Look at that computer. But that's what we started with, right? That was totally a sign of the times for him. So I love that. Was that printed? Remember the printed title page when they did that ages ago? So now here, that is a lot of pages just for kindergarten. And then I started 1st grade. So now I get to make the decision from, I started 1st grade, but these are, as you can see, these are not complete pages. But now I can see how many moving from here forward, what do I really want to finish? How do I want to finish this? And what do I want to include? So now I'm into my blank pages. So I got, like I said, about halfway through 1st grade. But if I were going to continue, let's see, where did 1st grade start? Here. Where was it? where's that title page? Oh, here's last day, right? So if I were to continue, that's an inch, then first grade would be an inch, and then second grade, another inch. Like, I don't know that it would even all fit in here for kindergarten, first, and second grade. So I'm actually kind of glad that I just stopped in the process and I can rethink and also have those wonderful peekaboo pockets. We have multi-pocket pages, like really thinking about all of the things that we have now that I didn't when I first started, right? Like I could have done a lot with peekaboo pockets to kind of cut down on pages in here. And peekaboo pockets do not take up, the same amount of space as actual pages do. But moving forward and then really planning that out. And so that's what I want to do next week, is kind of take you through step 2, which is assessing and kind of where are we and what if this is one of his books. And like I said, I already have his baby booty book, and then I have his toddler, his toddler years up to pre-K, and then this is kindergarten. Like how many, so that's 1, 2, 3 books. How many more do I want him to leave with? Like those are real questions that I think we need to answer instead of just sitting down and scrapping whatever we want. Like that's the way I used to do it. That's what I'm doing differently. Instead of just grabbing the next thing and going, okay, now I got to do that page. Okay, now I got to do that page, grabbing the next thing. Instead, I want to stop, assess. Okay, here's the whole plan, get the big picture, see the big picture, right? How am I going to take this and whittle it into what I actually want to give him? So that's what we're going to talk about next week. Okay, let me check out your questions and then see if there's anything else we can do today. So, okay, let me go back a little bit. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, okay, wait. Oh boy, you had a lot of questions. Okay, so hang on. All right. Yeah, the record sleeves. So Joan said the record sleeves could also be good for memorabilia pockets as well. And yeah, absolutely. And Linda says she's going to buy more of the layout guides. Yeah. And that's why today I wanted to give you some of the big picture tools of what I'll be using, and kind of, we could move forward from there. But you can see this big guy right here, how that looks. Whew, that's big. It's a different perspective, right? When it's kind of up next to you, but you can see, yeah, I got some things to whittle down in that one for sure. Okay. And Debbie said, okay, wait, no, Kathy said there was a post that the rainbow bundle would be reordered and back in December. Ooh, in December. So there you go. If you missed the rainbow bundle, it will be back. I was hoping, because, one day, that was pretty quick. Thank you for sharing that. Debbie says, what a difference the digital time made. Absolutely. Like when you can look at your physical photos and go, wow, it just dropped off right after that. And then it's like, okay, that's right. Now I have to think of all my digital organization and how do I do that? And the good news there is that as time goes on for us digitally, AI becomes better, and our ability to use artificial intelligence to help us get to the photos that we want is just better and better. And that's saving us time. When I first started, I thought I had to tag everything. Oh, no. AI is helping with all of that. And I'm also going to share a fun new feature in our next pop crop that AI just helped with too. So if you're a member, I have a fun new thing to share with you there. I always like to sprinkle those in. Okay, and also I should mention, if you haven't checked out my POP Facebook group, Progress on Projects Facebook group, we talk a lot about this kind of organization, and there's a lot of awesome question and answers in that group too. So sorry. And I forgot to turn notifications off. And in the pop group, so that is a free Facebook group if you haven't joined in there already. That's a fun place to check out and talk about organizing and making progress on our projects. Okay. Let's see. Digital. Mary says, boy, I am late getting here. Hello, hello, and everyone from Alabama. Welcome, welcome. Cinda says she has one left of the Blue Sky 3-ring binders. Oh, yeah, from the website favorites. It has a clear plastic pocket in front for making a special album dedicated to her grandson. That's beautiful. And yep, that would make a beautiful album for him. Okay. So, and Mary says she used the title. Okay, let me just try to catch up. Carol says she needs to finish her 4 sons' albums this year. Okay, I'm with you. I've got my 4 kids. I want to finish their albums. And Karen says she got about 3 grades in each of her kids, and they're in their late 20s, early 30s now. Yeah. And that's kind of how it was looking, especially for the early grades, right? And Kathleen says, thank you for the permission for moving forward. And you are very welcome, because I'm trying to do that too. Not, always look back and go, oh, do I have to redo all of this? No, let's just start where we are, but really think about where we're going. That to me is one of my biggest changes in scrapbooking, and what I'm not doing that I used to do. I really want to, move forward with the big picture. That's definitely a big change. Okay, and I know, and Debbie says all those old, they're priceless. Yes, absolutely, and I wouldn't change it. Okay, do I have the envelopes that hold pictures for 5 by 7, 8 by 10? Tina, that's a good question. 5 by 7, so 8 by 10. Old CM had some of those sleeves. You had to adhere them down to a page. Is that maybe what you're thinking of? I think, yeah, that would definitely be in vintage Old CM. So I don't know. They have 8.5 by 11 pocket pages, which you could use 8 by 10s in there now. And I'll probably be sharing that in my book. Like I think I had one in here to pull out. And you could always slip those smaller items in the smaller size pages. Now it's not popping out at me. But that's an easy thing to do if you don't, here, like this size. You can always do a smaller size, and the brackets are in the same place as the 12 by 12. So this would go into a 12 by 12 album as well. Okay, Karen, CM should go back to the late 90s. They used the 11 by 14 album and had a taught to teen concept to capture moments of your child's life. I used that for her daughter, and great fun moments spanning years related around 1 and 2 page spreads highlighting topics reflective of her life. And that is exactly where I'm moving towards. Exactly, Karen. So kind of that concept is my big picture. So instead of, 10 pages for 1 grade, I really want to focus on highlighting who were his best friends. Who are the kids' best friends? What were some of the highlights of their life in that time? Because my biggest reason for doing this is I want the scrapbooks to be for my kids. So what would they appreciate, right? And I think that larger overview, even though he may go back and go, oh, look at that cute, little picture I drew of a house or whatever. But as they, I can't do that. They're not going to want to sit down with 5 albums in their lap and flip. I think that bigger perspective, like you said, dance, Christmas, birthday, church, friends, sports, trips, etc. Like, what are the highlights? And really getting that nailed down for each child is definitely where I want to focus. So thank you for sharing that. And Linda said her oldest son has an entire kindergarten. I get it. I get it. And others have other special albums. So yeah, Lisa says she's relieved to know she's not the only one behind. No, ma'am. No, man. I'm sure there are so many of us that kind of just need to take a breather and go, really, what's the big picture? How do I get there? So absolutely. Okay, I'm going to try to skim through. Any other questions? Michelle says her school books are a 2-page spread per year. Just took photos of artwork so it could fit. Yeah, and that's where I think I'm headed to. It's fun. The early, kindergarten, first grade has the actual, but I'm definitely going to move into photos. But I may end up, like I said, keeping some of those originals in this format, this old one. So, whew. And Shirley says she actually waited until her kids graduated high school, decided K through 8 into one album. Each grade is one 2-page spread. They only wanted highlights. And that's so happy to hear that you asked your kids, right? What do you want? You just want the highlights. And then that's not to say, I think like I was talking to a friend of mine and she was saying like, I have such trouble throwing anything out that my kids did. And if that's part of what brings you joy, then keep that. But that's for you. Just remember to make the distinction between what you want and what they want. And maybe you want to put that in a scrapbook. Maybe you want to just kind of archive it in another type of album. But for them, taking the time to create a scrapbook for them, what do they want? And I think for most of our kids, it's not for everyone. Everyone has a different perspective. But for most, I know for my kids, they want the highlights. But they also, they enjoy looking through what I've already created for them as well. Okay, so, and Sue says she used to trace a plate. I know the circle. Now we have a custom cutting system to do that, right? Which is so great. And it's a great way to use old stickers. Absolutely. I know I have a lot of title pages, right, with that. Okay. So yes, Karen, it's a good topic. We need to kind of think this through and work with what works for us. That's why I'm just sharing part of my process. And I'm not saying this is the one that you should use. I'm saying this is how I'm taking another look at everything. Maybe there's something here that would also help you. Okay. So, yeah, it's take the time to organize what you have, right, Cinda? Okay. Joanna says, do you think you will include vacations also in their albums, even though they will be in a family album? And so I'm kind of rethinking that as well. Like you saw in Adam's album, I did include, what we did on a Christmas break and so on. And that's kind of how I started because I was thinking include everything. But part of my process is going to be using my album map handout, which I've shared before. And that is going to give me a page by page layout of how many pages it's going to take. And I think once I see the big picture, like maybe put everything in that I want, but if it is too much, those might be things that I pull out. Or it may be, going back to, let's see, Karen was saying, highlighting different topics. So instead of think of it this way, maybe you have one picture of the vacation, like the favorite picture, and then you tell the story. So you have the best friend, the picture, what you did on spring break. Maybe you have a Valentine's picture, what were in your child's world, what were the most important things? And then just pick those things. And instead of doing a 2-page spread on the vacation, right, just pick 1 or 2 of the favorite photos that represent, so that will trigger the memory for them that, oh, right, we went to Big Bear that winter, winter break. And I remember, yeah, we did this, we built a snowman or, those kind of things. So for me, it's more about, I don't have to do the same type of scrapbooking that I would maybe, yes, I want to have the big 2-page spread in my family album of going to Big Bear for winter break, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Thank you for all your great questions. And Cinda says, someday my children and grandchildren will look through them and then appreciate it all. And they already have. Like, I know we had their grandma and grandpa over, and I think my girls were sitting with them, and they each went and grabbed their baby book, and they're like, no, look at mine first, Grandma, look at mine first, right? So they do. And, they've grown up with it. And so I think that they have a little different perspective, but I think that absolutely they enjoy looking back and seeing all of that. So, yeah, okay. And Lisa said the album she's creating for her grandkids is just related to their school days. Yeah. So do what works for you. Think about some of these ideas. I just wanted to introduce you. I have all the things that I've talked about today linked in the description of the video. So if you want any more information, some of the things like the album and these pages are on Amazon. Other things like the power layout guides, the power sort box are from Creative Memories. And then others like the photo folders are from my own website, right? So you can find things like this. And the pop downloads are Craft Some Joy exclusives. So you can find that. So everything's linked for you. Thank you so much for joining today. I know this is a big topic, so we have to take this in chunks. So next week, we are going to talk about assessing and really kind of going, all right, what is my plan? I'll take you through what I've, and I have to do this between now and next week, right? Looking, kind of having, after I've gathered everything in one place, taking a look at what that looks like. I still have a little more sorting to do, but then let's assess what is going to be my plan. What do I want Adam to have as, part of his legacy, as I mentioned. Okay. So you are so welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining. And if you have questions, once again, the best place to leave questions is in the comments of the YouTube video. And of course, thank you for your hearts and your thumbs up. That always means so much to me. I appreciate each time you do that for my videos. So thanks again for joining. And until next time, I hope you take time to craft your joy. And I will also be right back here on Friday for Friday Night Scrapbooking. And we're going to do something a little different and fun. And we are going to play with punches. So get them out, get them ready. We're going to have some fun. Okay. Thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful day. See you soon. Bye for now.